All right. So once again, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Michelle Gamboa, and my topic for this morning is about the pancreas. All right. So you know that the pancreas has two functions, and these are endocrine as well as exocrine function. No? But the main topic that I'll be discussing for this morning is about the physiologic roles of insulin as well as glucagon. No? And the pathophysiology of diseases, especially diabetes mellitus, which is caused by an abnormal secretion or activity of these hormones, right? So you also have other pancreatic hormones such as amylin, and you also have somatostatin as well as the pancreatic polypeptide hormones, but the functions of this are not as well established, no, as compared to your insulin and glucagon. Okay, so these are the learning objectives. You need to understand the endocrine function of the pancreas, give the sources and mechanisms of actions of these pancreatic hormones. We will also discuss the factors involved in the regulation of secretion of the pancreatic hormones and enumerate and explain the effects of insulin and glucagon on carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism. Okay? So aside from that, we will discuss the consequences of deficiency and excess of the pancreatic hormone. So for example, you have a deficiency in insulin. So what will happen? Sige nga, Jemril, what do you think will happen? Deficient ka ng insulin.
Ano po, Dok? Decrease glucose po, Dok?
Decrease insulin.
Increase po, Dok. Sorry.
Okay, so you will have hyperglycemia, no? And the consequences of hyperglycemia. So we will enumerate the manifestations of diabetes mellitus. So ano ba yung isa sa mga alam yung manifestations of a patient with diabetes? Rain, can you give one? So ano yung mga classic, no? Na pag alam nyo, uy, diabetic kasi to, kaya ganyan. Nadine. Sige, Rain, you want to answer?
Ay, nakamute po pala. Ano po, Dok? Ihi po sila ng ihi.
So, ihi ng ihi, you call that polyuria. Okay? So, what else? Nadine, can you give one?
Weight loss po, Dok.
Yes, pwede rin. No? But the classic symptoms, Christian.
Polydipsia po.
Yes. So, dahil ihi ng ihi, polyuria, syempre mauuhaw naman yung pasyente. Kaya inom din siya ng inom. Polydipsia. And ano pa yung isa? Jana, you know the answer?
Extreme hunger po, Dok.
Yes. So, polyphagia. So, those are the 3 Ps, no? Polydipsia, polyuria, and polyphagia. Those are the classic manifestations of a patient with diabetes mellitus. So you'll also be explaining the mechanisms responsible for the signs and symptoms found in DM. And on the other hand, kasi yung DM, di ba, hyperglycemia. Yung kabaliktaran naman, hypoglycemia. Okay, so we will give some factors responsible for hypoglycemia and describe the manifestations of hypoglycemia. Right? So we will start with the anatomy of the pancreas. This is the head, the body, and the tail. This is the part of the duodenum. So the pancreas is composed of 2 major types of tissues. No? As you can see in this picture, you have the pancreatic acini, which secrete digestive juices directly into the duodenum. Right? You also have here the islets of Langerhans. Yan yung mga blue. Okay? So within the islets, there are different types of cells. You have the alpha, beta, delta, and the PP cell. No? And you know that which type of cell will be secreting insulin? Anybody?
Beta cells po.
Very good. Okay, so yung beta cells will secrete insulin. And what about the glucagon? Which cell will be secreting
Alpha
glucagon?
cells po.
Very good. So alpha cell. Alright, so this will now be secreted directly into the blood kasi may mga capillaries dyan. Right? Now, the beta cells, look at this, the beta cells, this constitute the major types of cells within the islet. So, about 60% ng cells sa islet are your beta cells, no? And they lie mainly at the center of each islet, okay? Again, they secrete insulin and amylin as well. Yung amylin, as I mentioned, this is a hormone that is often secreted in parallel with insulin. Although, I mentioned that its function is unclear, no? So, you also have the alpha cell here, yung mga blue, no? Yung alpha cell, it's about 25% of the total cells in the islet. And it secretes glucagon, right? And you have the delta cell, which is about 10% of the total cells within the islet, and it secretes somatostatin. And yung last cell, yung least one other type of cell, which is the PP cell or the pancreatic polypeptide cell. This is present in small numbers in the islets, less than 2%. No? But again, as I mentioned, it has an uncertain function. Right? So it secretes the pancreatic polypeptide hormone where the function is still uncertain. Okay, so this one is just tabulation of the different types of cells, and this is the approximate percentage of the islet mass, which we already mentioned, no? The secretory products. Okay? So, you have here nakita nyo yung close interrelations of these cells, no? Within the islets. They allow cell-to-cell communication. So, these cells, they communicate. They direct control of the secretion of some of the hormones by the other hormones. So, for instance, look at this picture. You have here the beta cell, which secrete insulin. It will now inhibit the alpha cell from secreting glucagon. Okay, so that's their way of communication. On the other hand, you have here the delta cell, which secretes somatostatin, and that will now inhibit both the alpha cell and the beta cell from secreting glucagon and insulin, respectively. Do you follow? All right. So, this is now the insulin molecule. It's a small protein. No, you can see it has 2 amino acid chains connected by disulfide linkages. And when these 2 amino acid chains are split apart, the functional activity of the insulin molecule is lost. Okay? So, synthesis of insulin. So, it begins with translation of the insulin RNA by the ribosomes attached to the endoplasmic reticulum to form the initial insulin preprohormone. Okay, so you have now the insulin preprohormone. It will now then be cleaved in the endoplasmic reticulum to form your proinsulin. This proinsulin, look at this picture. Ito na ngayon yung insulin molecule and you have the connecting chain or the C chain, the C-peptide chain, connecting peptide. Okay? So this proinsulin will be cleaved in the Golgi apparatus to form your insulin. Ito na ngayon, pag na-cleave, nahiwalay na yung C-peptide and ito na ngayon yung insulin molecule. Okay? So this will be packed in the secretory granules and will be secreted in equimolar amounts. Okay? So about 5 to 10% ng final secreted product is still in the form of your proinsulin. So, Doc, para saan po yung C-peptide? Di po ba yung insulin lang yung nagagamit natin? So, sometimes, this measurement of C-peptide by radioimmunoassay can be used in insulin-treated diabetic patients para ma-determine nila how much of their own natural insulin they are still producing. So, because patients with type 1 diabetes, di ba, they are unable to produce insulin. So, the result now will be greatly decreased levels of your C-peptide. Okay? Maliwanag? Clear? Alright. So, we will now be discussing the glucose transporters. So, and under the secondary active transport, you have the sodium glucose cotransport. You have the SGLT1, which is responsible for absorption of glucose in the small intestines and the renal tubules. And you also have the SGLT2, which is responsible for absorption of glucose in the renal tubules. So you can see here in the picture, di ba, SGLT1 and 2. Okay? So, other glucose transporters, under facilitated diffusion, I'll be mentioning on the next slide. Why do I want to emphasize these glucose transporters SGLT1 and 2? Because these newer drugs, no? So, dun yung mechanism of action nila. Okay? Like this drug, dapagliflozin, no, marketed as for SIGA, so it selectively inhibits the SGLT2 in the renal proximal tubule. And what is the end effect? It will increase urinary glucose excretion. Okay? I-inhibit niya yung absorption. Okay? So, ilalabas mo ngayon sa urine. Alright? Now, these are the other glucose transporters under facilitated diffusion. So, you have GLUT1, which is responsible for the basal glucose uptake in the placenta, the blood-brain barrier, RBC, kidneys, colon, and other organs. So, I want you to remember this GLUT2, because this is the beta cell sensor present in the intestinal and renal epithelial cells. So, sa beta cells of islets, sa liver, epithelial cells ng small intestines, as well as the kidneys. GLUT3 is present in the brain, placenta, kidneys, and other organs. Now, next is GLUT4. Again, I want you to remember this. GLUT4, kasi this is responsible for insulin-stimulated glucose uptake sa skeletal and the cardiac muscle, adipose tissue, and probably other tissues as well. Okay? So, what do I mean by insulin-stimulated glucose uptake? In these tissues, so you will be needing insulin to facilitate the glucose uptake. Okay? Pag walang insulin, hindi makakapasok yung glucose in these tissues. Okay? Kaya nga, insulin-stimulated glucose uptake. Do you follow? GLUT, ano yon? Yung insulin-stimulated glucose uptake? Uy, sagot.
4 po.
Alright, GLUT4. Ano yung beta cell sensor?
GLUT2 po.
Very good. Alright. So, you also have GLUT5, which is responsible for fructose transport, GLUT6 non, and GLUT7 is for glucose 6-phosphate transporter in the endoplasmic reticulum, in the liver, and particularly in other tissues as well. Okay? So, look at this picture. This is the insulin receptor. O, tingin dito, ano yung mga pink na bilog-bilog na yan? Na may green? Anybody?
Lipid bilayer po.
Alright, that's the cell membrane, which is a lipid bilayer. O, look again at this picture. You can see that the insulin receptor has 2 alpha subunits and 2 beta subunits. Now, they are connected together by disulfide linkages. And you can see that this 2 alpha subunit, it is located outside the cell. Diba? Entirely outside the cell. And the 2 beta subunit, it penetrates the cell membrane, protruding into the cell cytoplasm. Nakikita ba yung picture? Okay. Such that, when this insulin binds to the, saan magbabind? Yun yung nasa labas What subunit? Anybody?
Alpha po.
Alright. So, pag mag-bind yung insulin in the alpha subunit, because they are connected by disulfide linkages to the beta subunit, what will happen? There will be autophosphorylation of the beta subunits. Okay? So, yung beta subunit becomes autophosphorylated, and what will happen? Tingin lang sa picture and you can follow. Now, there will be activation of a local tyrosine kinase. What will this local tyrosine kinase do? It will cause phosphorylation of your multiple intracellular enzymes, particularly a group called insulin receptor substrates. Yung mga IRS na yan, they are present in the different, expressed in the different tissues. Now, you have IRS1, IRS2, IRS3. And the net effect is to activate some of these enzymes while inactivating others. So, in this way, your insulin will direct the metabolic machinery, yung intracellular metabolic machinery to produce the desired effects in carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism, as well as growth and gene expression. And this glucose transporters, magta-translocate siya sa cell membrane. Anong sinabi natin kaninang glucose transporters na responsible for insulin-stimulated glucose uptake? Ano na nga yun?
GLUT4 po.
Very
GLUT4.
good. So, yung mga GLUT4 na yan, nandito lang yan sa loob. Pag nag-bind ang insulin sa alpha subunit, di ba, yung mga next processes will happen and yung end effect niyan is that yung glucose transporter 4, susundo na yan ng glucose sa cell membrane. Okay? Pupunta na yan, it will translocate into the cell membrane para mapapasok niya ngayon yung glucose inside the cell. Do you follow? Alright. Now, what are the mechanisms of insulin secretion? So this is the beta cell. Ano na nga yung glucose transporter sa beta cell? The beta cell sensor?
Two po.
GLUT2. Okay, so you can see from this picture, the glucose transporter 2 is here, no? So glucose will enter the beta cell and what will happen? So remember that glucose is the primary stimulus of insulin secretion. So once it enters the beta cell, no, facilitated by the GLUT2 transporter, it will now be phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate, okay, by the glucokinase. Okay, so what will happen after that? Metabolism of this glucose 6-phosphate will increase the intracellular ATP. So you can see here, kaya again, tignan nyo lang yung picture, makakasunod kayo. You can see that there will be an increase in the intracellular ATP-ADP ratio. And pag mataas ngayon yung ATP nyo, what will happen? It will inhibit this ATP-sensitive potassium channel. Pag in-inhibit, what do you think will happen? Will it close or will it open? Inhibit eh.
Close po.
Very good. So magsasara yan. Okay? And what will happen with the cell membrane? It will now be depolarized. Depolarization of the beta cell membrane will activate this voltage-gated calcium channel. Pag inactivate, what do you think will happen? Open or close? Anybody? Tingin lang sa picture o you will follow.
Open po.
Okay, so pag inopen yan, kasi activated eh, so it will open. What will now happen to the calcium? You will now have a calcium influx. Kaya dadami yung intracellular calcium mo. And what will this calcium do? It will now cause fusion. Diba sabi natin kanina, nasa secretory granules yung mga insulin together with the C-peptide. Diba? So pag pumasok si calcium, itutulak niya ngayon itong mga secretory granules to the cell membrane. Push, push, push. Magdadak ngayon yan sa secretory, sa cell membrane. And this will be now there will be secretion of the insulin in the extracellular fluid by exocytosis. Maliwanag ba yon kung anong nangyayari? May question ba? Feel free to interrupt me if you have questions or may hindi naintindihan. Naintindihan? So hindi ko rin nakikita yung chat, sorry. So just raise your hand or feel free to interrupt me. No? All right. So, nag-exocytosis na, lumabas na ngayon si insulin. So what will insulin do? Saan siya magbabind? Insulin receptor, di ba? What particular subunit of the insulin receptor?
Alpha po.
Alpha subunit. And what will happen? There will be, sige, i-trace natin yung sunod-sunod na mangyayari, yung na-mention natin kanina. Pag nag-bind sa alpha subunit yung insulin molecule, what will happen?
Phosphorylation po ng beta subunit.
Very good. And then, what will happen?
Activation of tyrosine.
Local tyrosine kinase. Yes, very good. And then, there will be, pag na-activate yung local tyrosine kinase, anong mangyayaring susunod? Doon sa picture, anong susunod doon? Hindi yung picture na yan, yung kaninang picture. Ayan o, phosphorylation of your multiple intracellular enzyme, particularly a group called insulin receptor substrate. Okay, sabi natin, yung mga IRS na yan present in different tissues, no? May IRS 1, 2, and 3. So what will happen? Anong net effect niya? Diba? Activate some of these enzymes while inactivating others. Which is important, no? to produce the desired effect in carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism, growth and gene expression, as well as the translocation of these glucose transporters. Yan din yan. Okay? So, regulation of glucose, lipid, and protein metabolism, gene expression and cell growth, and the translocation of glucose transporters. Maliwanag ba yon yung mechanism of insulin secretion? Is that clear? Meron bang question so far? Remember the glucose is the primary stimulus of insulin secretion. Okay? Now, we will now be discussing the effects of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, so immediately after mong kumain, what will happen to the glucose? No? So sa tingin mo, pag kumain ka, dami mong kumain ka na, ito sa picture, no? Nakain mo yung isang buong cake. O Jake, what do you think will happen to the glucose?
Nadadigest po yung food po, Dr. After po ba?
Siyempre, madadigest yung food. And then, what will happen to the glucose? Tataas ba siya? Bababa?
Increase po.
Increase. Sabi natin kanina, what is the primary stimulation of primary stimulus for insulin secretion? Anong sabi ko? Tandaan nyo? What is the primary stimulus for insulin secretion?
Glucose po.
Okay. So, pag kumain ka, dami mong kinain, high carbohydrate meal, glucose that is absorbed into the blood will cause rapid secretion of insulin. So, ayan sa picture, no? This insulin now, in turn, will cause rapid uptake. No? Kasi anong gagawin ng katawan mo sa glucose? Ang taas eh. So, what do you think? Ano bang gagawin mo? Ba't ba tayo kumakain? Kailangan mo ng
Energy po.
yes, gagamitin mo yon as source of energy. Sobra. Ang dami. What will happen to the excess?
May store po.
Yes, very good. So, you will use the glucose for energy. The excess will now be stored in the form of, what is the storage form of glucose?
Glycogen.
Glycogen.
Very good. Okay. So, it will be stored as glycogen in the muscle. Sa adipose, anong storage form ng fats? What do you call that?
Triglycerides.
Very good. Okay. And sa liver, also glycogen. Maliwanag yon? Okay. So, these are the target tissues. You have the muscle, the liver, and the adipose. Okay. Now, remember, during much of the day, muscle tissue depends not on glucose for its energy, no? But on fatty acids. Bakit kaya? During much of the day, hindi ka naman 24/7 kumakain eh, di ba? So during much of the day, your muscle tissue depends on glucose, not on glucose for its energy, but on fatty acids. Why? What is the reason? Bakit sa fatty acid nagde-depend yung muscle mo during much of the day?
Doc, kasi po, fats is the stored form of carbohydrates.
Any other answers?
Slightly permeable lang po yung muscle sa
Very
glucose.
good. Kasi the normal resting muscle, no? What I'm talking about is the normal resting muscle, no? Mga kagaya natin, sedentary, no? Hindi laging nag-e-exercise. Kayo pa ba nag-e-exercise pa ba kayo? Wala nang time, toxic, doc, mga ganyan, di ba? So the normal resting muscle is only slightly permeable to glucose except when stimulated by insulin. Now, between meals, pag hindi ka kumakain, no? Diba sabi ko nga, hindi naman tayo 24/7 kumakain. So what will happen between meals? Pag di ka kumakain, what happens to glucose, Jake? Jake, uy.
Ay, wait po. Yung sa, ano po, Dok, kapag after po kumain po,
No, between meals, pag hindi ka kumakain.
wala pong uptake ng glucose sa cells po.
So mababa.
Mababa po.
Okay? The amount of glucose is too small to promote significant amount of glucose entry into the cell. So again, kaya nakapula yan, look at this, normal resting muscle is only slightly permeable to glucose. And again, between meals, the amount of glucose is too small to promote significant amount of glucose entry into the cell. No? So, look at this diagram. No? Yung x-axis, you have the extracellular glucose, the y-axis, the intracellular glucose. Now, this is a quantitative effect of insulin to facilitate glucose transport through the resting muscle. Naka-highlight yan na resting kasi iba yung exercising muscle. Okay? So here, it is being shown that yung green, yung control. No? It shows that yung concentration of free glucose measured inside the cell no, remained almost zero. Yan o, pag ganyan. Hindi siya nakakapasok kasi wala ngang insulin. No? Kahit na sobrang taas ng glucose up to as high as 750 milligrams per 100 ml, no? It remained outside the cell. In contrast, itong red, nakita nyo yung red, insulin, okay? So, nung naglagay ng insulin, what happened? No? The glucose now, pumasok siya sa cell, no? So, it rose to up to as high as 400 milligrams per 100 ml. And it is clear now that insulin can increase the rate of glucose transport, no, into the resting muscle by at least 15-fold. Okay? Maliwanag? However, there are two conditions where the muscle use large amount of glucose. And can you give one? Yan, napakita ko na siya. There are two conditions na yung muscles natin mataas na amount ng glucose yung ginagamit. No? So, can you give one?
Exercise po.
Yes. Kaya nga kanina naka-highlight doon, 'di ba, resting muscle, only slightly permeable to glucose. Now, during moderate or heavy exercise, no, it does not require large amount of insulin kasi yung exercising muscle natin, it becomes more permeable to glucose even in the absence of insulin, no? And that is because of the contraction process itself. Kaya very important na you advise your patients, those diabetic patients, na mag-exercise kasi it really helps, no? Hindi nila kailangan ng insulin, nagiging highly permeable yung muscle natin because of the contraction process. Okay? And what is that second condition? Few hours after a meal, no? Kumain ka, ang taas ng amount ng glucose, no? And at this time, yung blood glucose concentration mo, because it's high, the pancreas now is secreting large quantities of insulin. And what happens to the extra insulin? That will cause rapid transport of glucose into the muscle cell, so your muscle will now use glucose over fatty acids. Maliwanag? Any question? All right. So, yung actions of insulin is for peripheral uptake of glucose, and this is through facilitated transport. Insulin will facilitate this uptake kasi yung insulin binds to the insulin receptor. What happens is there will be insertion of glucose transporters. Anong glucose transporter na nga yung nag-i-insert doon sa membrane, sumusundo ng glucose para makapasok sa cell? What is that glucose transporter? Insulin-stimulated glucose uptake. Very good, GLUT4. Okay? Now, what are the tissues that require insulin for effective uptake of glucose? Sa tingin nyo, na-mention na natin yan. Anybody?
Skeletal and cardiac muscles po.
O skeletal muscle, but you have to emphasize that it is resting skeletal muscle. Kasi nga, pag exercising, di ba, hindi na siya nagre-require ng insulin. It becomes more permeable to glucose. And of course, the adipose tissue. Okay. What about sa liver? Do you think sa liver, required ba yung insulin para makapasok ang glucose? Okay. Sa liver, insulin is not required for glucose uptake. But, in the presence of insulin, na-enhance yung glucose metabolism, no? And it is not by inserting new transporters into the membrane. So, ang mechanism niya is enhancing the glucose metabolism. Okay? So this naman are tissues in which glucose uptake is not affected by insulin. Meaning, kahit walang insulin, itong mga tissues na to, highly permeable to glucose. And can you give one? Sa tingin nyo, ano mga tissues na highly permeable to glucose?
Red blood cells po.
RBC, no? Very important also is our brain, the nervous system. No, kaya nga you would want to maintain a normal blood glucose level. Kasi pag nag-hypogly, yung unang-unang naapektuhan will be the brain. We will be discussing that later on. Okay. Sa kidney tubules, intestinal mucosa, red blood cells, and the beta cells of pancreas. Okay? So, effect of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism is storage of glycogen in the muscles. So, if the muscles are not exercising after a meal, di ba? Ganyan tayo. Hindi tayo nag-exercise, kumain, walang exercise. So, what will happen? So, dami mong glucose na natransport sa muscle cells. Okay? Yung glucose will be stored as muscle glycogen instead of being used for energy. Okay, so the effect of insulin sa muscle will be promoting glycogen synthesis. Okay? And how will that happen? No? Paano ka mag-synthesize ng glycogen? I-increase mo yung glucose transport. You will also want to enhance the activity of that enzyme responsible for synthesis of glycogen, and that is glycogen synthase enzyme. Now, from the word itself, glycogen synthase, synthesis of glycogen. So you would want to enhance that activity para mag-promote ka ng glycogen synthesis. What else? You would want to inhibit that enzyme, no? Activity ng enzyme that causes the breakdown of glycogen. And remember, that is your glycogen phosphorylase enzyme. Glycogen phosphorylase responsible for the breakdown of your glycogen. So sa glycogenolysis. Do you get it? Nakuha ba? Okay. Now, sa liver, insulin promotes uptake, storage, and use of glucose. Look at this picture. Now, sa exam, pwede kong ipadraw yung liver and the biochemical reactions. Gusto niyo ba yon? Okay. Lakas ng tanggi ni Christian. Ayaw daw niya. Okay. I just want you to understand. Can you please look at this slide? Look at the picture. Diba sabi natin, sa liver, hindi required yung insulin. Pero na-enhance yung glucose metabolism. Okay? Hindi required yung insulin para makapasok si glucose. Okay? So ngayon, in the presence of insulin, di ba, glucose, pasok siya, and it will now be phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate by the enzyme glucokinase. Tandaan nyo, once the glucose is phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate, it becomes temporarily trapped in the liver. Okay? Kasi nga may phosphate radical ka. Meaning, hindi siya basta-basta makakabalik sa circulation. Maliwanag? Okay. So, after it's been phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate, it will be converted to glucose phosphate and to glycogen, which again is the storage form of glucose. Alright? So, ang effect ng insulin sa liver, it has anabolic effects, no? Promoting glycogen storage, promoting glycolysis. What is glycolysis, by the way? Sige nga, yung magagaling dyan sa biochem. What is glycolysis? Anybody? Glycolysis is the process where glucose is being converted into pyruvate, no? So by that, nare-release mo yung free energy, which is the ATP, no? Nare-release dun sa process na yon. Alright? So anti-catabolic effects din, mainly ang effect ng insulin sa liver, it has anti-catabolic effects, no? By inhibiting glycogenolysis. Again, di ba sabi natin, pag may insulin, we want synthesis and storage of glucose in the form of glycogen. Kaya ayaw mo ng breakdown. Kasi di ba ito, lysis ng glycogen. Kaya i-inhibit niya yung breakdown ng glycogen, no, pag may insulin. You also, yung effect pa ng insulin is inhibiting gluconeogenesis. What is gluconeogenesis?
Synthesis of glucose po.
Okay, synthesis of glucose using non-carbohydrate substrate. No? So, pwedeng gumamit yan ng amino acid, fatty acids, etc. Okay? So, these are the effects of insulin in the liver. Okay? So, insulin will inactivate the liver phosphorylase. So, ito, same lang, naka-picture lang, and then, ini-emphasize ko lang dito na in the presence of insulin, kaya may X yung phosphorylase enzyme, is because insulin will inactivate this liver phosphorylase. No? Ano nga yung liver phosphorylase enzyme? Anybody? Phosphorylase. Ayan, no, nakikita nyo sa picture, kaya pag titignan nyo rin yung picture, makakasunod din kayo eh. Iba glycogen o pababa doon sa glucose phosphate. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Breakdown or splitting of glycogen into glucose. Okay? Kaya sabi natin, pag may insulin, i-inhibit niya yung enzyme that causes breakdown or splitting of glycogen into glucose. Okay? Naintindihan? So, in the presence of insulin, it will inactivate the liver phosphorylase enzyme that causes liver breakdown of glycogen. Also, in the presence of insulin, no? So you enhance the uptake of glucose from the blood by the liver cells, no? By the enzyme, no? Pag in-increase mo yung activity ng enzyme glucokinase. Alright? So, in the presence of insulin, there will be enhanced uptake of glucose by increasing the activity of your glucokinase. Also, in the presence of insulin, you increase the activity of the enzyme that promote glycogen synthesis. And that is your enzyme glycogen synthase. Okay, so the net effect of all of these actions is to increase the amount of glycogen in the liver. So yung glycogen can increase to a total of about 5 to 6% of the liver mass, which is equivalent to almost 100 grams of stored glycogen in the whole liver. So what happens between meals? Pag hindi ka kumakain, di ba sabi natin kanina, bumababa yung blood glucose. No? So between meals, when the food is not available and the blood glucose concentration begin to fall, what will happen to the insulin secretion? Siyempre, magdi-decrease din. Okay? Decreasing blood glucose, the pancreas will also decrease insulin secretion, and when there is lack of insulin, mare-reverse lahat ng effects for glycogen storage. Okay, stopping further synthesis of glycogen in the liver and preventing further uptake of glucose by the liver from the blood. Also, when there is lack of insulin, magi-increase yung glucagon. And this will now activate the enzyme phosphorylase. Ano nga yung phosphorylase enzyme? Anong sabi natin kanina? Anong effect niyan?
Breaks down glycogen to glucose.
Thank you. Very good, Christian. Okay. So, you will now also be activating, pag walang lack of insulin, you will activate the glucose phosphatase. Doc, hindi pa po namin narinig yan. Ano po yung glucose phosphatase? From the word itself, glucose phosphate, phosphatase. Yan yung enzyme, ano sabi natin kanina? Diba sa liver, hindi required ang insulin, pero once na makapasok yung glucose in the liver, it becomes phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate. Diba? You follow? Pag may phosphate radical, anong sabi natin? It becomes temporarily trapped in the liver. Hindi siya basta-basta makakabalik sa circulation. Now, because kailangan mo ng glucose dahil nga mababa between meals to, mababa yung glucose. Hindi ka kumakain, mababa yung glucose, kailangan mo ng glucose. So, hindi para makabalik yung glucose na yon to the circulation, kailangan tanggalin mo yung phosphate radical. Okay? That is the effect now of your glucose phosphatase. This will now cause the splitting of your phosphate radical so that the free glucose will diffuse back into the blood. Maliwanag yon? Meron bang hindi malinaw sa sinabi ko? So again, pag walang insulin, you activate the enzyme phosphorylase that causes splitting or breakdown of your glycogen. And dahil nag-breakdown na yung glycogen to glucose phosphate and to glucose 6-phosphate, kailangan mong tanggalin yung phosphate radical. Ito na ngayon yung enzyme na yun responsible for the splitting away of your glucose to that phosphate radical, glucose phosphatase. Okay? So, this just emphasize, yung picture na to, emphasize that in the absence of insulin, this phosphorylase enzyme will now be activated. O look at this picture. Ito yon, glycogen. Pag na-activate mo yung phosphorylase enzyme, it will now be, yung glycogen will be broken down into glucose phosphate. Okay? To glucose 6-phosphate. So ito yung phosphate radical na kailangan mong tanggalin. And that is the effect of your what? Anong enzyme yon? Glucose.
Phosphorylase.
Ito yung phosphorylase, glycogen to glucose phosphate.
Phosphatase po, Doc.
Phosphatase. Okay? Sige. Ayan. So, lack of insulin activates the liver phosphorylase splitting glycogen into glucose phosphate. Also, ito yung glucose phosphatase, which is also activated in the absence of insulin, and that will cause the phosphate radical to split away from glucose so that the free glucose will diffuse back into the blood. Okay, so what are the effects of insulin naman? We will talk about the effects of insulin on fat metabolism. So we are done with the effect of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism. So far ba may question? Wala naman. Sa chat box, wala din. No? Okay, so we move on to the effects of insulin on fat metabolism. Okay. So, sa fat metabolism, ganun din ang gusto mo, no? Synthesis and storage of fat. Again, what is the storage form of fat? Na-mention nyo na kanina?
Triglycerides.
Triglycerides. Okay. So, insulin will also decrease the utilization of fat. That's why it's called fat sparer. No? It promotes fatty acid synthesis. So, paano nangyayari yon sa adipocytes? No? Ang effect ng insulin will be promoting triglyceride storage by increasing the glucose transport into the fat cells. Ano ulit yung glucose transporters na present dito sa adipose?
GLUT4.
Very good. Okay. So sa GLUT4, papasok ngayon yung glucose. Once it's inside the adipose, there will be now synthesis of these fatty acids. No? But more importantly, it also forms large quantities of this alpha-glycerol phosphate, no? Which is important substrate for triglyceride synthesis. Kasi itong alpha-glycerol phosphate, it supplies the glycerol, no? That combines with fatty acid. So yung alpha-glycerol phosphate magko-combine sa fatty acid. Pag nag-combine siya, yun na ngayon yung triglycerides. And again, triglycerides are the storage form of fat in the adipose. Okay? Also, with the insulin, what happens is that it inhibits the intracellular lipolysis, no? By inhibiting the enzyme hormone-sensitive lipase. Okay? So yan yung mga effects ng insulin sa adipocytes. Inhibits lipolysis, and of course, synthesis and storage of fat in the form of your triglycerides. O, look at this picture. Sabi natin sa adipose, no, meron kang glucose transporter 4, pasok si glucose, and minute amount will be converted to fatty acids. No? It will be synthesized to fatty acids. But more importantly, ito yung glycerol phosphate. And again, fatty acid will combine with the alpha-glycerol phosphate that will form your triglycerides. Okay? Now, sa liver, insulin increases the transport of glucose into the liver cells. But after 5 to 6% of glucose concentration in the liver, what happens? Nai-inhibit na yung further glycogen synthesis. So, anong mangyayari sa sobra-sobrang glucose na yon? Hindi ka na maka-form ng glycogen. So, yung additional glucose entering the liver cells become available to form fat. No? Kaya yung mga ibang mga kamag-anak nyo siguro, no, parents nyo, nagtataka. Anak, bakit ganito? Kasi syempre, mga doktor na ang tingin sa inyo. Anak, ba't ganon? Nagpa-blood chem ako, hindi na nga ako kumakain ng mga fatty foods, no? Panay na nga lang anong kinakain ko, di ba? Yung mga pansit, inuulam ko sa kanin, di ba? Carbo-carbo. No? So now you can explain kasi after 5 to 6% of glucose concentration sa liver, nai-inhibit mo na yung further glycogen synthesis. Kaya yung sobra-sobrang glucose na yan, nako-convert din yan sa fat. Kaya pwedeng tumaas din yung sa lipid profile nila, no? Tataas din yung mga triglycerides or the bad cholesterol, LDL. Okay? Kahit hindi sila kumakain ng mga fatty foods. Okay? So, paano ba nako-convert yung glucose sa fat? Now, remember, in the glycolytic pathway, this glucose will be split into pyruvate. Okay? And this pyruvate will be converted to your acetyl-CoA, which is an important substrate from which the fatty acids are synthesized. Okay? So, ano pa? So, pag marami kang ginagamit na glucose, no, for energy, madami ka ring excess na citrate and isocitrate formed by the citric acid cycle. Alright? So, what will happen is that you activate the acetyl-CoA carboxylase. This will carboxylate your acetyl-CoA to form your malonyl-CoA, which is the first stage in fatty acid synthesis. Okay? So, ganun lang din yan. Sabi natin, excess citrate, isocitrate, you activate the acetyl-CoA carboxylase that will convert your acetyl-CoA to malonyl-CoA, which is the first stage in fatty acid synthesis. Okay? And most of the fatty acids synthesized within the liver and used to form triglycerides. So, sa liver, ba, nasi-synthesize yung mga fatty acids, and then they are used to form your triglycerides. So, what will happen? Nare-release siya sa liver cells to the blood by the way of your lipoprotein. So, insulin-activated lipoprotein lipase sa capillary walls, nakita nyo to, yung sa adipose, meron dito sa gilid, no, lipoprotein lipase. So, insulin-activated lipoprotein lipase in the capillary walls of the adipose tissue. Kasi, yung mga galing sa liver na yan, hindi yan basta-basta makakapasok sa adipose. So, kailangan i-split muna niya by this lipoprotein lipase. Isi-split niya yung triglycerides again into fatty acids. That is a requirement for them to be absorbed in the adipose. Okay? So, inside the adipose, they are again converted to triglycerides and stored. Okay? So, in the absence of insulin, what are the effects of insulin deficiency on fat metabolism? You have to remember, no? These are now yung mga complications, no, na nangyayari in a patients with diabetes. Hindi sila namamatay just because of diabetes per se. Yung may mga patients with severe diabetes, no? Not because diabetic namatay. It's the complications brought about by diabetes that causes mortality in these patients. Okay? Especially the effect of insulin deficiency on fat metabolism. Kasi in the absence of insulin, lahat ng effects of insulin noted earlier that causes storage of fat are being reversed. Okay? So, the most important effect is that yung enzyme na hormone-sensitive lipase na nandun sa fat cells, it becomes strongly activated. So, magkakaroon ka ngayon ng lipolysis. No? Ano yung storage form? Di ba? Triglycerides. So, yung nakastore mong triglyceride, i-breakdown niya yan. Lipolysis of triglycerides, marirelease ngayon yung free fatty acids. Free fatty acids now will become the main energy substrate used by all tissues of the body, except sa brain. Kasi sa brain, hirap ang brain natin na gumamit ng fatty acid. No? Mas gusto niya yung glucose. That's why you have to maintain a normal blood glucose level. No? Paulit-ulit na ako dyan. Kasi nga, mas yung brain natin, it prefers glucose over fatty acid. Okay? So, there will now be increasing plasma cholesterol and phospholipid concentration. And remember, these phospholipids and cholesterol concentration are the two major products of fat metabolism. No? Phospholipids and cholesterol. Okay? These two substances, these phospholipids and cholesterol, along with the excess triglycerides formed at the same time na nasa liver, they are being discharged into the blood in the form of lipoproteins. Okay? So, it promotes atherosclerosis dahil ang dami mo sa blood eh. Didikit yan sa mga blood vessels, tumitigas ang blood vessels, ang mga arteries. So, that is now your atherosclerosis. So, it promotes atherosclerosis in people with serious diabetes. Okay? Now, excess usage of fats during insulin lack will also cause ketosis, acidosis, no? Yung ketoacidosis, no? DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. That can cause severe acidosis, coma, and eventually death. Okay? Now, paano ba nagkakaroon ng keto acid production? No? Pag wala kang insulin, sobrang dami mong fatty acid sa liver, what will happen? You increase the activity of this carnitine transport. Ano ba yung carnitine transport? Naka-highlight dyan, CAR. No, it's the transport. Kung ano yung nagta-transport sa fatty acid into the mitochondria. Sa liver to ha. So yung fatty acid sumasakay sa carnitine transport papunta sa mitochondria, no? And it becomes increasingly activated. What happens sa mitochondria? Itong mga fatty acids na to, it undergoes beta oxidation. Okay? And it proceeds rapidly. So nagre-release siya ng maraming acetyl-CoA. Now this large acetyl-CoA will be released, no? Marirelease siya. So ang dami mong acetyl-CoA, mako-condense siya to form your acetoacetic acid and marirelease sa circulation. Okay? This acetoacetic acid, normally, pag dumaan yan sa peripheral cells, dapat mako-convert to acetyl-CoA at magagamit mo for energy. Pero dahil wala kang insulin, madidecrease yung utilization ng acetoacetic acid na to sa peripheral tissues. So much so that this acetic acid will be released into the blood na hindi siya metabolize sa tissue, and if it increase yung concentration niya will increase to as high as 20 milliequivalents per liter, that is said to be the severe state of body fluid acidosis. Okay? So some of this acetoacetic acid mako-convert siya to beta-hydroxybutyric acid and acetone. So these are the ketone bodies. Okay? So beta-hydroxybutyric acid, your ketone, your acetone, and itong mga acetoacetic acid, these are the ketone bodies. And if it is present in large amount in your body fluid, you call that ketosis. Okay? So in people with serious diabetes, it can cause again severe acidosis, coma, and can often lead to death. Maliwanag ba yun yung keto acid production? Okay. Now, look at this. I hope this will play. Please look at the video. Tingin sa video. It's just a short video. I just want you to show, I just want you to look at this, yung kung paano huminga yan, no? Yung may DKA, nakita nyo? That is Kussmaul's breathing. No? Deep, rapid breathing. Ganon. No? In patients with metabolic acidosis. Kasi bakit binibilisan? Kasi that is your body's response to eliminate carbon dioxide. No? Usually seen in patients with DKA. That is Kussmaul's breathing. Maliwanag? Okay. So, if there is insulin, what will happen to the hormone-sensitive lipase? Mai-inhibit kasi may insulin ka. So, walang lipolysis, mababa yung phospholipid concentration, walang formation of ketone bodies. But when there is lack of insulin, so you activate now the hormone-sensitive lipase, there will be lipolysis, no, increasing the phospholipids, as well as the ketone body formation. Okay? So, the long-term effect on insulin lack will be, as I mentioned, there will be extreme atherosclerosis, So, what happens sa heart? There will be myocardial infarction. Diba? Yung mga heart attack kasi bumara. Bumara, nagkaroon ng blood clot sa heart. Siyempre, heart attack or MI. Sa brain, pag sa brain naman, you have cerebral strokes, no? Or cerebrovascular accidents and other vascular accidents. That's just pwede rin yun sa legs nyo, yung DVT, no? Deep vein thrombosis. Okay? So we are done with the effects of insulin on carbohydrate and fat metabolism. So far, meron bang question before we proceed to the effect of insulin on protein metabolism? Okay, wala. Now, we move on to the effect of insulin and protein metabolism. So ganun din, synthesis and storage, di ba? Ng carbohydrate, ng fat, sa protein, ganun din. Insulin promotes protein synthesis and storage. No? So, yung insulin will stimulate transport of many amino acids into the cells. Also, insulin increases the translation of your messenger RNA for the formation of new proteins. Insulin will also increase the rate of transcription ng selected DNA genetic sequences in the cell nuclei, increasing your RNA for more protein synthesis. Now, look at this. Amino acids such as your valine, leucine, isoleucine, tyrosine, and phenylalanine pasok sa cell, undergo DNA transcription, RNA translation for synthesis of proteins. Also, insulin inhibits the catabolism of protein, thereby decreasing the rate of amino acid release from the cell, especially sa muscle cells. In the liver naman, insulin depresses the rate of gluconeogenesis. So, nako-conserve mo ngayon yung amino acids in the protein stores of the body. Okay? Now, what happens naman if there is insulin deficiency on protein metabolism? So, if there is insulin lack, sa tingin nyo, makakapasok pa ba yung amino acid sa cell? Wala kang insulin eh.
No po.
So, hindi. That's why the concentration of your plasma amino acid rises, no? And most of the excess amino acids are used either directly for energy or pwedeng as substrate for gluconeogenesis. Di ba sabi natin kanina, formation of glucose using non-carbohydrate substrate. So, pwede siyang gumamit ng amino acid. So, with insulin lack, there will be protein depletion. Mataas ang plasma amino acids kasi nga hindi siya makapasok sa cell. There will be increased protein catabolism, your protein synthesis will stop, and large quantities of these amino acids will be dumped into the plasma. So, ito na yan ngayon. So, there will be protein wasting. The patient will experience extreme weakness, no? And there are also consequences in yung functions ng organs, no? There are many deranged functions of these organs. Alright, so we are done with the effects of insulin on carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism. So ano pa ba yung ibang effect ng insulin? No? So sa insulin and growth hormone, look at this diagram. Nag-experiment sila. No? Tinanggal nila yung pancreas, kaya nga depancreatize. So tinanggal ang pancreas, wala kang insulin. Hypophysiectomize, tinanggal ang pituitary, so wala kang growth hormone. Sa rat naman to, hindi sa tao. No? So tinanggal nila, inobserve nila, meron kayang growth, walang insulin, walang growth hormone, pero naglagay sila growth hormone alone. Siyempre, growth hormone, dapat magkakaroon ka na ng growth. No? Pero look at this. When you give growth hormone one at a time, no? So, and insulin one at a time, nakita nyo, plateau lang siya, walang growth. No? But when they combine growth hormone with insulin, it caused dramatic growth. Diba? Pataas yung line. So, anong ibig sabihin yan? Insulin and growth hormone interact synergistically to promote growth because each promotes cellular uptake of different selection of amino acids which is required if growth is to be achieved. Okay? Ano pang ibang effect ng insulin? Sa potassium. No, yung insulin will pump potassium into the cells. So, paano niya ginagawa yon? By increasing the activity of your sodium-potassium ATPase in most body tissues. So, this is being used to treat acute life-threatening hyperkalemia. For example, meron kang pasyenteng may renal failure, tumataas yung potassium. So, hyperkalemia of renal failure. Paano mo ibababa yung potassium? It can be successfully lowered by giving insulin. Pero by giving insulin, pwede siyang mag-hypoglycemia. That's why you also have to give glucose. No? So simultaneous administration of insulin and glucose. Again, bakit mo binibigyan ng glucose? This is to prevent severe insulin-induced hypoglycemia from developing. Okay? So bakit ba ayaw natin ng mataas ang potassium, hyperkalemia, kaya gusto mong ibaba? So what happens in these patients with renal failure? Yung renal potassium excretion is limited. No? Kasi nga, there is reduction in the GFR. So pag mataas ang potassium, it can cause cardiac arrhythmia. No? Abnormalities sa heartbeat. So pwedeng masyadong mabilis. No? So it can cause sudden death. That's why we have to maintain the normal level of your potassium. Okay? So what are the principal actions of insulin? There is rapid within seconds, intermediate within minutes, and delayed within hours. Okay? Pag rapid, it increases transport of glucose, amino acids, and potassium into the insulin-sensitive cells. Okay? Intermediate, within minutes, it stimulates protein synthesis and inhibit protein catabolism. You also stimulate glycogen synthase. Again, this is the enzyme responsible for synthesis of glycogen and stimulating other glycolytic enzyme. You would want to inhibit the enzyme that causes breakdown of glycogen, and that is the phosphorylase enzyme, and inhibiting gluconeogenic enzymes. Pag delayed, increases messenger RNA for lipogenesis. Okay, this one, we already discussed this mechanism of insulin secretion, di ba kanina? But I just want to emphasize this. O, look at this picture, di ba? Increase ang glucose, this is in the beta cell, ha? Mataas ang glucose, pasok sa beta cell, no, within the islets. That is by your glucose 2 transporter. Now, what will happen is that it becomes phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate by the enzyme glucokinase. And it will undergo oxidation. Pag nag-oxidize, i-increase yung ATP. Ano sabi natin kanina mangyayari pag mataas ang ATP? What will happen? Sa picture, nakita nyo na, sunod-sunod. Anybody?
Inhibit the channels po.
Okay. It will inhibit this ATP-sensitive potassium channel. Kaya ko lang to inulit kasi nakita nyo ba tong bilog na to na yellow, SUR? Nakikita nyo? That is your sulfonylurea drugs. No? Kung saan yung mechanism of action niya is by inhibiting, no, this ATP-sensitive potassium channel. Okay, yung mga sulfonylurea drugs na yan. So that stimulate insulin secretion by binding to this ATP-sensitive potassium channel, thereby blocking their activity. No? So sabi natin, pag binlock niya yan, magsasara, depolarization of the cell membrane, depolarization will cause activation of this voltage-gated calcium channel. Pag na-activate, bubukas, papasok ngayon si calcium, increasing the intracellular calcium, causing this docking of this insulin-containing secretory granules, and marirelease na siya by exocytosis. Maliwanag. Okay? Sulfonylurea drugs yun, ha, yung SUR. Okay, so these are the factors that will increase insulin secretion. If you have increased blood glucose, blood-free fatty acids, amino acids, no, glucagon, gastric inhibitory polypeptide, acetylcholine, GI hormones such as gastrin, cholecystokinin, secretin, growth hormone, cortisol, parasympathetic stimulation. We will be discussing this one by one. Beta adrenergic stimulation, if you have insulin resistance, obesity, sulfonylurea drugs, glyburide, and tolbutamide. And what will decrease insulin secretion? Of course, if you have a decreased blood glucose, especially during fasting. Somatostatin, I already mentioned, it inhibits both your glucagon and insulin. Alpha-2 adrenergic activity by decreasing the cyclic AMP, closing the calcium channels. And this is important because it protects hypoglycemia, especially during exercise. Leptin will also decrease insulin secretion. Now, if you have increased blood glucose, increase din ang insulin secretion. Insulin will increase transport of glucose into the liver, muscle, and other cells, thereby decreasing blood glucose concentration to normal value. So, yung amino acids such as arginine and lysine strongly potentiate the glucose stimulus for insulin secretion, and this is by increasing the intracellular calcium. The GI hormones such as gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, and the gastric inhibitory polypeptide would cause a moderate increase in insulin secretion. So ito, anticipatory increase siya in preparation for the glucose and amino acids to be absorbed from the meal. No? Other hormones and the autonomic nervous system, you have glucagon, growth hormone, cortisol, progesterone, and estrogen. So pag prolonged yung secretion of any of these hormones, no, in large quantities, would cause exhaustion of the beta cells of the islets of Langerhans, increasing the risk of developing diabetes. Okay? And stimulation of the parasympathetic nerves to the pancreas will increase insulin secretion by increasing the intracellular calcium. So, kaya naka-highlight yan, no, para matatandaan nyo yung picture. Pag nag-increase ang intracellular calcium, ano nang kasunod? Dun sa mechanism of insulin secretion.
Exocytosis of insulin.
So bago yon, di ba? Increasing intracellular calcium, pupush niya muna yung mga secretory granules, docking of this secretory granules, di ba? Pag tumaas ang calcium, yung mga insulin na nasa secretory granules, ipupush niya yan ng calcium na yan para mag-dock sa cell membrane bago pa lang mag-exocytosis. You follow? Meron bang question so far? Wala? Okay. So, moving on, insulin promotes utilization of carbohydrates for energy and depresses utilization of fats. When there is lack of insulin, it causes fat utilization except in the brain. Okay? So, the signal that controls switching is the blood glucose concentration, such that if you have a low blood glucose, decrease din ang insulin, and fat is used for energy except in the brain. But if you have a high blood glucose, insulin secretion is stimulated, carbohydrate is used instead of fat. So, yung excess blood glucose stored as liver glycogen, liver fat, and muscle glycogen. What about for growth hormone and cortisol? So, this is secreted in response to hypoglycemia. And both inhibit cellular utilization of glucose by ang pinopromote niya is fat utilization, no, not glucose utilization, yung growth hormone and cortisol. What about epinephrine? No, this is especially important in increasing plasma glucose concentration during stress. And that is by your sympathetic nervous system, no? So, i-increase na yung plasma fatty acid concentration at the same time, no, tumataas yung glucose pero tumataas din yung fatty acid. No, kaya yung epinephrine, it acts differently from the other hormones. Kasi nga it increases plasma fatty acid concentration at the same time. No? And the reasons for this are yung epinephrine has a potent effect causing glycogenolysis in the liver. Okay, kaya nare-release within minutes yung large quantities of glucose in the blood. And aside from that, meron din siyang direct lipolytic effect sa adipose cells. And that is by activating your hormone-sensitive lipase. So, quantitatively, yung enhancement ng fatty acid is greater kesa sa enhancement ng blood glucose. So, remember, pareho silang tumataas, plasma fatty acid and blood glucose, pero mas greater yung increase ng plasma fatty acid than the glucose. So, epinephrine enhances utilization of fat in stressful states such as exercise, circulatory shock, and anxiety. Now, next hormone, no, is your glucagon. So, it's a peptide hormone secreted by the alpha cells of the islet, and the primary target here is the liver. No? So, because yung liver, kasi di ba yung glucagon from the pancreas or the gut, it will enter the hepatic portal vein and it is carried to the liver before reaching the systemic circulation. Kaya yung large portion of this hormone never reaches the systemic circulation. That's why yung liver is the primary target organ of glucagon. Okay? Now, eto, nag-experiment na naman sila. Nag-inject sila ng purified glucagon into an animal. And there was a profound hyperglycemic effect that occurred. That's why they called glucagon as a hyperglycemic hormone. Now, half-life is 5 to 10 minutes, and this is degraded by many tissues, particularly in the liver, in 80%. So, these are the specific actions of glucagon on the liver. No? Yung major effects ng glucagon sa glucose metabolism are the breakdown of liver glycogen, and that is by glycogenolysis, no? And increasing gluconeogenesis. Kaya may asterisk yan. These are the major effects of glucagon on liver metabolism. No? Second is increased gluconeogenesis in the liver. So this is achieved by activating the enzymes, no, required for amino acid transport and gluconeogenesis. Okay? So both of these effects, they greatly enhance the availability of glucose to the other organs of the body. And the most important effect is that glucagon will activate the adipose cell lipase, no, para increase yung quantities of fatty acids available to the energy systems of the body. Okay? So increased glycogenolysis, increased liver gluconeogenesis, increases liver ketogenesis, decreases liver lipogenesis, increases ureagenesis, increases insulin secretion kasi nga it's a hyperglycemic hormone. So pag mataas ang sugar, mataas din ang insulin secretion. Increases lipolysis in the liver. Okay, so ito, just to show you, this is a picture of yung glucagon receptor. So yung glucagon binds to the glucagon receptor and it will now activate the adenylyl cyclase. Okay? Pag inactivate mo yung adenylyl cyclase sa hepatic membrane, there will be formation of your cyclic AMP. Okay? And this cyclic AMP will activate the protein kinase regulator protein, which will activate your protein kinase A, no, from the inactive to active form. Protein kinase now will activate phosphorylase enzyme. Sorry. So, phosphorylase B to phosphorylase A. So, di ba, familiar? Phosphorylase enzyme, ano na nga ang ginagawa ng phosphorylase enzyme? It causes breakdown. Yes, Christian.
Splitting po?
Yes, splitting or breakdown or degradation of your glycogen. Remember yung picture kanina, di ba? From glycogen, nagbe-breakdown siya into glucose phosphate. Di ba? Tapos to glucose 6-phosphate. And pag tinanggal mo na yung phosphate radical by the glucose phosphatase enzyme, free na yung glucose molecule to diffuse back into the circulation. Remember that. Okay? So, kaya itong glucagon, it promotes glycogenolysis. Okay? Okay. So, this is just a picture. Ayan na ulit yung sinasabi ko. Glycogen activating, yung glucagon will activate the phosphorylase enzyme that will cause the breakdown or the degradation of your glycogen to glucose phosphate. Okay? You follow? Okay, so for regulation of glucagon secretion, look at this diagram. So, ang ibig lang sabihin yan, pag nag-i-increase yung blood glucose, no, nai-inhibit mo yung glucagon secretion. Okay? On the other hand, pag bumababa naman yung glucose, tumataas yung glucagon secretion. Okay? So, for the regulation of glucagon secretion, increased blood amino acids such as alanine and arginine will stimulate glucagon secretion. And what is the importance of that? Glucagon promotes rapid conversion of amino acids to glucose. Again, that is by the process of gluconeogenesis, so making it available to more tissues. So during exhaustive exercise, you stimulate glucagon secretion. Beta-adrenergic stimulation will also increase glucagon secretion, and that is via your cyclic AMP. Vagal stimulation, cholecystokinin, and gastrin will also increase glucagon secretion. Secretin, free fatty acids, and your ketones will inhibit glucagon secretion. Now, we move on to somatostatin. Ano na ngang cells ang nagsisecrete ng somatostatin?
Delta po.
Delta. Okay, very good. So, yung factors that stimulate somatostatin secretion will be increased blood glucose, increased amino acids, increased fatty acids, and increased concentration of several GI hormones. So, mainly, ang effect ng somatostatin is inhibitory. So, it depresses the secretion of both insulin and glucagon, decreases the motility ng stomach, duodenum, and gallbladder, decreases both secretion and absorption in the GIT. And what is the role of this somatostatin? You would want to extend the period of time over which the food nutrients are assimilated into the blood. So, this is the homeostatic system of insulin and glucagon. Look at this picture. If you have a high blood glucose, ang masistimulate po sa pancreas would be the beta cell to release insulin. And what would insulin do? Sa liver, promoting glycogen synthesis. Sa adipose, triglyceride synthesis. Okay? And sa muscle, ganun din, glycogen synthesis. Lowering now your blood glucose level to normal. But if you have a low blood glucose, ang masistimulate mo sa pancreas will be the alpha cell. no, to secrete glucagon. And what will glucagon do? No, opposite ng insulin. Breakdown of your glycogen para ma-release ang glucose. Triglycerides breakdown through lipolysis, as well as ito, protein catabolism, no? Breakdown din ng muscle glycogen para ma-increase mo yung blood glucose concentration. Alright, so these are now the disorders of glucose metabolism. If you have insulin deficiency, what happens? Diba? Sa fats, lipolysis. So, increased fat mobilization. Sabi natin, pag sobra-sobra na yan, nagkakaroon ka ng ketone body formation, and the presence of this in the blood, you call it ketonemia, sa urine, ketonuria. And what will happen to the plasma pH? Magdi-decrease, no? Metabolic acidosis could lead to coma and eventually death. With ketonuria, with ketonuria, there will be electrolyte loss, kaya potassium and sodium loss. Okay? If you have insulin deficiency, decrease ang glucose utilization and madami kang napuproduce na glucose, kaya ang end effect is hyperglycemia. Pag sobra-sobra na yung glucose, no? What happens? Nai-exceed na yung renal threshold for glucose absorption. Kaya yung sobra niyan tumatapon na sa urine. So you call that glycosuria. Now, what happens is that yung glucose can exert a large amount of osmotic pressure in the extracellular fluid. Kaya yung pag ang glucose concentration mo sobrang taas, this can cause cellular dehydration. Kasi ia-attract niya yung fluid sa extracellular, ganun din sa intracellular, kaya cellular dehydration. So anong mararamdaman ng pasyente? Dehydrated nauuhaw, you stimulate the thirst center. Kaya ang tendency is iinom ng iinom, no? Polydipsia. Sobrang dami niyang iniinom, ihi siya ng ihi, polyuria. Okay? So, with osmotic diuresis, there will be electrolyte loss. Diba? Sabi natin, hyperosmolality and dehydration can lead to shock and coma and eventually death. Okay? Now, what is diabetes mellitus? It's a syndrome of disordered metabolism, no, with inappropriate hyperglycemia. And this can be due to absolute deficiency of insulin secretion, that is type. Anong type ng diabetes yan? Pag ang problem mo with the production of insulin.
Type 1.
Type 1. Or it could be due to reduction in the biologic effectiveness of insulin. That is type?
Type 2 po.
Okay. So, insulin insensitivity. Alright. So, again, diabetes is characterized by hyperglycemia, which can be secondary to defects in insulin production. Again, this is type. Anong type nito? Type of insulin.
Type 1.
Sorry, type of diabetes. Type 1. Autoimmune or destruction ng beta cells. Anong type ng diabetes?
Type 1.
Yes, very good. Type 1 pa rin. Anything that will destroy your beta cells, magkakaroon ka ng problem sa production ng insulin. That is type 1. Okay? Insulin insensitivity is type ano? Type 2. Very good. Impaired action of insulin on target tissues. Type
2.
2. Okay. So, how do you diagnose diabetes? Halimbawa, may pasyente ka na may mga signs and symptoms of yung 3Ps. Polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia. Gusto mong ma-confirm. So, anong mga ire-request mo ngayon? Pwede kang mag-request ng FBS. Ano ba yung FBS? Anybody?
Determination of blood sugar po by fasting po, Doc, usually. Pwede na po yung 6 to 8 hours, pero depende sa lab po, Doc. Mayroon 8 to 10 hours or 10 to 12 hours po.
Very good. Sino nga to? Sorry I didn't see your name.
Jake po, Doc.
Jake. Very good, Jake. Okay, so tama yung sinabi ni Jake, fasting blood sugar, kailangan mong i-advise yung pasyente na mag-fast, no? Hindi mo lang basta ibibigay yung request kasi hindi nila yan naiintindihan. Pupunta na lang yan sa laboratory, kumain ng breakfast, pagpunta doon, ay dapat po may fasting, ay hindi yung sinabi ng doktor Okay? So, i-explain nyo, kailangan nyo hong mag-fast for 6 to 8 hours, no? Walang kain, walang tubig, bawal din ng tubig, no? So, pagpunta niya sa lab, kukuhanan siya ng dugo, that is your fasting blood sugar. What about the 70? So, ang FBS is indication of your current glucose levels, no? So what about the 75 grams OGTT? Ano naman yun?
Ano po, Doc, may fasting po, first hour and second hour po, Doc. Bali, maka-fasting muna si patient, Doc. Pupunta sa laboratory, kukunan ng
Mhm.
blood. After kunan po ng blood, papainumin po siya ng orange flavor or cola flavored na drink na 75 grams.
Mhm.
Tapos, mag-wait po siya ng 1 hour na walang kakainin or iinumin po. Then, kukuhanan po siya ng blood. Then, babalik ulit po siya on the second hour po para kunan ulit ng blood po.
Okay, very good, Jake. No, tama yon. Sa 75 grams OGTT, it's also important for you to advise your patient na 3 beses po kayong kukuhanan. Kasi yung mga iba dyan pumapasok, no, akala nila pagka-extract pwede na silang umalis. That's why you have to properly advise your patient. Again, to fast for 6 to 8 hours. Pagdating sa lab, kukuhanan ng dugo, that is your fasting blood sugar. No? And then may ipapainom yung commercially prepared na juice, no, containing 75 gram of your sugar, no? And that after 1 hour kukuhanan ulit siya ng dugo, and after 2 hours, no? So what about the RBS? Ano yung RBS? Anybody?
So, random po, Doc. No need for fasting po. For example po, emergency patient po, Doc. Kinukuhanan po siya ng RBS po.
Okay, very good. So this is true for patients na nasa emergency room, no? So halimbawa, emergency case, nasa ER nga yung pasyente mo, hindi naman nakapag-fast, you want to get the blood glucose level, so kuhanan mo ng random blood sugar. Kaya hindi mo sasabihin sa pasyente mo na, bumalik na lang po kayo, mag-fasting muna kayo, kasi nga emergency yung case, okay? And in patients with classic, no, signs and symptoms of diabetes, such as yung meron na nga siyang mga polydipsia, polyuria, polyphagia, may iba pa siyang kinocomplain na if you are highly considering diabetes, if you get a value of 200 and above sa random blood sugar, pwede mo nang i-diagnose ng diabetes yung pasyente. Okay? Sa FBS, anong cut-off natin? Anong cut-off sa tingin nyo? Paano nyo sasabihin? Baka bigla kayong matanong nung kapitbahay nyo, nakaputi na kayo, di ba? Pumapasok. Ay, Doc, magpa-labs po ako eh. Pwede nyo po bang tignan tong sugar ko? Huwag nyo sabihin, tignan nyo na lang dun sa normal value, meron nakalagay dyan.
Kapag fasting blood sugar po, Doc, I think it's 125 milligrams per TL or more po.
Okay.
Consider na po siya.
So, ang fasting blood sugar mo should be less than 100 hanggang 99. Okay? For you to say that your patient has diabetes, it has to be 126. No? So, pag 100 to 125, anong tawag mo doon? Hindi pa siya diabetic, hindi rin normal. Anong tawag mo doon? Pre-diabetes. Very good. Okay? Now, yung 75 grams OGTT, may mga cut-off din yan. We will be discussing that later on. What about glycated hemoglobin? Ano ba yung ibig sabihin yan? Glycated hemoglobin.
It reflects po yung 3 months glucose level ni patient.
Yes, very good. So, sa glycated hemoglobin naman, yung glucose mo nagbabind sa RBCs. So, ito ngayon, pag kinuhanan mo yan, it will reflect now the average levels of your glucose in the past 2 to 3 months. Now, bakit 3 months? Jared, sa tingin mo, bakit 3 months?
Yun po yung time ng normal production of blood po.
The lifespan of your
Lifespan.
RBC. No, it's about 120 days. Kaya ganun din tumatagal yung yung level, no? Kaya this is used for monitoring patients na nagtitreat. For example, yung mga naka-insulin or naka-oral hypoglycemic agents na you would want to know, to check if nagre-respond ba sila dun sa medication na binigay mo. No? Or kung kunyari, naka-insulin, chinek mo, sobrang taas pa rin, ba kailangan mong i-adjust o kailangan mong magdagdag ng gamot? Okay? Maliwanag ba yon? how to diagnose diabetes. Now, in a normal person, a fasting blood glucose is between 80 and 90 milligram. So, ito ngayon yung sa 75 grams OGTT. Diba? 3 beses kinukuhanan. Fasting blood glucose between 80 and 90. Sa first hour, you expect na tataas yan to 120 to 140 milligram per 100 ml. And on the second hour, di ba 3 beses kinukuhanan fasting, first hour, second hour. You expect na dun sa second hour, because of the feedback system, the level would now return to the control level, dun sa normal value. Okay? Now, during starvation, because of gluconeogenesis, this will provide glucose required in maintaining the fasting blood glucose level. So, tingin dito, this is the glucose tolerance curve. Sabi natin, in a normal patient, or in a normal individual, fasting blood glucose is between 80 and 90. And after 1 hour, di ba uminom siya ng matamis? Tinignan mo ngayon yung blood glucose level on the first hour, 120 to 130. And on the second hour, dapat bababa siya to normal. But look at this graph in a patient with diabetes. Nakita nyo fasting pa lang. Ang taas na agad, above 110 agad, no? And often above 140. Kaya nandito yan sa 140 milligrams, no? And on ingestion of glucose, these patients now will exhibit much greater than normal rise. Nakita niyo umabot ng more than 200, no? And we expect, 'di ba sabi natin dapat on the second hour bababa siya. Hindi pa siya agad bumaba, 'di ba? Nakita niyo bumababa lang siya on the fourth hour, no? Only after 4 to 6 hours. And it fails to fall below the control level. Okay, maliwanag ba 'yon in patients with diabetes? Alright. These are the normal values, yung hemoglobin A1C. If you get a value of 6.5% and above, fasting plasma glucose 126 and above, no, dun sa 2 hours o yung mga random blood sugar o kaya man sa 2 hours ng 75 grams OGTT, 200 or more, no? In a patient with classic symptoms of hyperglycemia or hyperglycemic crisis, yung random blood sugar na 200 and above, this will be enough for you to diagnose your patient with diabetes. Maliwanag ba yon yung mga cut-off values? No, minsan binibigay ko yan sa exam, bigyan ako ng case, tapos titignan nyo kung pwede nyo na bang ma-diagnose yung pasyente with diabetes. Okay? So, ito yan. Sa hemoglobin A1C, sabi natin 6.5 or above, fasting blood sugars. These are just pictures, no, para mas madali nyo nang matandaan. Pre-diabetes and then the normal value. Okay? So, classification of diabetes, you already mentioned type 1. If you have a deficiency in the production of diabetes, type 2 is decreased insulin sensitivity, no? Meron ding type 3, pero hindi pa yan, wala pa yan sa book eh. So, type 3 is those chronic insulin resistance plus insulin deficiency state confined sa brain. No? Some propose that it's yung representation niya is a major pathogenic mechanism of Alzheimer's disease, no, neurodegeneration. So this is a very interesting theory considering na yung insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia, these are potential factors, no, risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, no? And because they may cause neuron apoptosis and promote formation of extracellular beta amyloid deposits. Okay? What about gestational diabetes? Ano naman yun? Gestational.
Sa mga pregnant po.
Alright. So, sa mga buntis, no? And mind you, these patients, pwedeng meron na silang pre-diabetes even before pregnancy, but because, of course, yung mga less fortunate, no? Mga of low socioeconomic status, hindi sila nagpapa-check up. Pero kasi dahil nabuntis, nagpa-check up, doon na-diagnose, that's why na-label sila with gestational diabetes. Pero, ang tanong nila, Doc, forever na ba tong diabetes ko? So, anong dapat sagot? Anybody? So, we have to repeat the 75 grams OGTT 6 weeks postpartum. No? Kasi 6 weeks, bakit 6 weeks? Well, that's the time na, di ba, meron kang maternal adaptations to pregnancy, di ba, nagtumataas yung mga iba-ibang hormones, specifically the HPL. Diba? So that can cause insulin resistance. So kaya tinitignan natin yan pagkapanganak kung magiging normal ulit. 6 weeks postpartum is the cutoff. Pwedeng 6 to 12, pero as early as 6 weeks postpartum. Pwede mo nang ipa-repeat to confirm if the patient really has an overt DM or baka GDM lang talaga during pregnancy lang. Okay? Other or secondary diabetes, these are patients with polycystic ovarian syndrome, no? Kaya yung may mga PCOS, alam niyo ba yung PCOS? Polycystic ovarian syndrome, irregular menstruation, no? May patients with hyperandrogenism. Pag hyperandrogenism, mataas ang androgen, anong nakikita niyo sa pasyente? No? Pwedeng maraming acne, and then may hirsutism siya, yung parang may balbas dito, no? May mga nakikita ka mga facial hair, mga hair dito sa chest, sa legs, sa inner thighs, ganyan, no? Meron tayong tinitignan na modified Ferryman-Gallwey scoring para sabihin mo kung may hirsutism talaga yung pasyente or wala, no? So, PCOS, no? So, sinabi natin, irregular menses, signs and symptoms of hyperandrogenism, and sa ultrasound, meron siyang polycystic ovary. Sa tatlong criteria, kahit dalawa lang ang makita mo, pasok na siya sa PCOS, no? Based from the Rotterdam criteria. Okay? So, itong mga pasyenteng may PCOS, tinitignan din natin yung sugar niyan. Kasi nga, meron din silang insulin resistance and concomitant hyperinsulinemia that predisposes them to diabetes later on. Okay? So, ano pa? Cushing syndrome. Okay? So, meron din yung may mga acromegaly because of the excess growth hormone. Di ba sabi natin, pag matataas yung mga levels niyan, it can cause exhaustion of the beta cells. That can lead to diabetes. Okay, maliwanag ba yon yung other or secondary diabetes? Okay, so pag excess growth hormone, pituitary diabetes, pag sa Cushing's naman, adrenal diabetes, no? So, yun yung mga terminology. Okay, so diabetes mellitus. So you can see here in a healthy individual, normal ang production ng insulin, okay ang receptor, nakakapasok ngayon yung glucose by the glucose transporter 4. In a patient with type 1, ang problem mo with the production of insulin, pero okay ang receptor. No? Kaya ang end result pa rin would be mataas pa rin ang glucose level or hyperglycemia. Pag sa type 2 naman, what happens is that okay ang insulin production, pero ang problem mo ay sa receptor. Okay? So sa type 2, there's a defect in signaling to GLUT4. No, walang Wi-Fi. Hindi ngayon masend yung signal dun sa glucose transporter. Hindi siya makapunta sa may defect, no, sa signaling to GLUT4. Okay? Joke lang yung Wi-Fi, baka i-quote nyo ako doon. Basta pag sa type 2, may defect in the signaling to GLUT4. O kaya may problem yung receptor. Okay? So sa type 1, age of onset is usually less than 20 years old. The body mass is low to normal. Plasma insulin is low or absent. And the plasma glucose, whether it's type 1 or type 2, parehas mataas yan. Insulin sensitivity here is normal kasi nga ang problem mo is with the production of insulin. That's why the therapy here is you give insulin. And they are ketosis prone positive. For type 2, mga mahihilig kumain dyan, no? Mga buffet, panay na mga yun, samgyup, ganyan. Diba? So, dahil mahilig kumain, what happens is that the body mass here is obese. And usually, more than 30 years old, but not true nowadays, no? Kasi nga, kahit less than 30 years old, dahil because of the lifestyle, kung paano kumain, yung diet, no? Kahit less than 30 years old yan, nagkakaroon na ng type 2 diabetes. No? Plasma insulin is normal to high initially. Again, the plasma glucose, whether it's type 1 or type 2, parehas mataas. Insulin sensitivity here is reduced. No? Kaya ang therapy mo is diet, exercise, oral hypoglycemic agent, and insulin therapy. Kasi sabi nila, pag obese, may mga toxic effect, no? Yung sa adipose. Okay? Kaya, ang gusto mo is to lose weight para bumalik yung insulin sensitivity. Okay? And they are ketosis prone negative. Oh, ito, another syndrome, metabolic syndrome. So, meron pag syndrome, may criteria. Di ba kanina sa polycystic ovarian syndrome, 3 yung criteria. Pero sabi natin, 2 out of the 3 lang, pwede mo nang i-diagnose yung patient mo with PCOS. Ito naman, metabolic syndrome, nakikita nyo, 5 yung criteria. Nakikita ba? Okay. So, 5 to, pero 3 out of the 5 lang, pwede nyo nang ma-diagnose yung pasyente nyo with metabolic syndrome. So, ano yung mga yan? Insulin resistance, fasting hyperglycemia, lipid abnormalities such as mataas yung triglycerides, more than 150. Mababa yung HDL. Ano ba yung HDL? That is the good or bad cholesterol. Sorry, Christian,
Good.
napuputol. Can you repeat your answer?
Good cholesterol.
Yes,
po.
very good. So yung HDL or the high density lipoprotein is the good cholesterol. Okay, kaya gusto mo, dahil good yan yung lalaban sa mga bad cholesterol. Gusto mo mataas yan. But in patients with metabolic syndrome, mababa ngayon yung HDL. Okay, so hypertension and abdominal circumference. Chine-check din yan, yung measurement. So sa know your number sa waistline. Okay? Sa lalaki, ang cutoff is 40 inches. Sa babae, 35 inches. Okay? Blood sugar, sabi natin, di ba? Less than 99 ang normal, 126 ang cutoff. Blood pressure, 130/85, hypertensive na. No? Triglycerides, pag mataas, 150 and above. And yung HDL cholesterol, if it's less than 50, no, mababa yon. So any 3 of this among the 5 criteria, pag nakita nyo sa pasyente nyo, meron na siyang metabolic syndrome. Suffice for you to say that your patient has metabolic syndrome. And why is it important that you screen your patient? Kasi nga, yung long-term complications, no, na pwedeng mangyari sa pasyente nyo, kaya nyo ini-screen. Pwedeng magkaroon ng heart attack yan, di ba? Cerebrovascular strokes, okay? And etc. So these are, I already mentioned this, no? Other factors that can cause insulin resistance and type 2 DM, PCOS, excess formation of your glucocorticoids, sa Cushing syndrome, and excess growth hormone, you have acromegaly. Gestational diabetes, I also mentioned about that. This one, mga iba pang signs and symptoms, there's rapid weight loss because of protein catabolism and asthenia, no? Asthenia is abnormal physical weakness or lack of energy. Okay? Now, other symptoms of diabetes, always tired, no? Always hungry. Kayo, ganyan ba kayo? Always tired, always hungry. Mag-screen na kayo, baka may diabetes. Okay? Vaginal infections, ito common among yung mga, halimbawa, yung mga mommy nyo, nag-complain ng, anak, pakitignan mo nga tong discharge ko, parang buo-buo, na parang kesong puti, no? Tapos makati. So, screen nyo na baka may diabetes. Okay? Sexual problems, mga erectile dysfunction, numbs or tingling ng hands or feet because of peripheral neuropathy, no? Sudden weight loss, always thirsty, alam nyo na yan, frequent urination, wounds that won't heal. Bakit hindi nag-heal ang wound in patients with diabetes? Kasi isang problem with diabetes is that there is yung blood vessels, they undergo anatomical changes, no? Lumiliit yung dinadaanan kasi nga atherosclerosis, no? So, anong nangyayari? Decrease ngayon yung blood flow to that specific area of your body. Kunyari, sa paa, diba? Ang nagiging problem pa niyan because of peripheral neuropathy, no? Hindi nila, there's numbness, hindi nila alam minsan nasusugat na pala sila, hindi nila naramdaman, nakikita na lang nila, ay, may sugat pala ako. Tapos, hindi gumagaling, no? Non-healing wound. So, sometimes, ito yung mga complaint ng pasyenteng nagpapacheck up sa clinic, no? Non-healing wound, tapos dok, hindi ko nga nalaman na nasugat na pala ako dyan. Okay? So, ipacheck nyo yung sugar. Now, blurring of vision because of peripheral retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy. Okay? What are the other complications of diabetes? If you have a chronic high glucose concentration, that can cause tissue injury. This is what I'm saying. Yung blood vessels, they begin to function abnormally. They undergo structural changes, resulting to inadequate blood supply to the tissues. So there is increased risk for heart attack, stroke, end-stage kidney disease, retinopathy and blindness, ischemia and gangrene of the limbs. Sometimes pag talagang non-healing wound yan, nabubulok na, kesa kumalat pa, no, pinuputol na. Yun yung mga BKA, below knee amputation. Okay? Now, peripheral neuropathy and autonomic nervous system, there is impaired cardiovascular reflexes, impaired bladder control, decreased sensation in extremities, and other symptoms of peripheral nerve damage. Hypertension due to renal injury and atherosclerosis due to abnormal lipid metabolism. Kaya nga itong mga pasyenteng to, binibigyan mo rin siya ng mga statins. Okay? Yung mga, familiar ba kayo dun sa simvastatin, mga atorvastatin, mga Lipitor, ganyan, rosuvastatin. Kasi nga because of the abnormal lipid metabolism, you would want to give these patients mga statins. Okay? So these are major complications of diabetes, microvascular, macrovascular. No? There is problems sa eyes, sa kidneys, eye, kidneys, and neuropathy, macrovascular sa brain, heart, and the extremities. Okay? Now, these are slides, no, showing to you itong pinaka-first dun sa leftmost. In a patient with diabetic retinopathy, no, that could lead to blindness, so malabo yung mata. Kidney failure, no, because of diabetic nephropathy, nag-end stage kidney disease, no, kaya nauuwi sa, what's this? Hemodialysis. Okay? So, diabetes can also damage the nerves and cause neuropathy. Yan, yung mga stroke. Ito yung, yan no, specimen na siya. Yung mga na-BKA kasi nga hindi na nag-heal ang wound. Okay? So, atherosclerosis, yan. Okay, so what is the treatment of diabetes? Pag type 1, of course, the problem is production of insulin. That's why you have to give insulin. And there are different types of insulin. Merong regular, which has a duration of 3 to 8 hours ng effectivity. Okay? And yung other insulin, which are zinc and other protein derivatives, which can last to 10 to 48 hours. No? Yung mga long-acting insulin. Pag type 2, again, diet and exercise to induce weight loss and reverse the insulin resistance. But if diet and exercise fails, you give drugs to increase insulin sensitivity or stimulate increased production of insulin. So, ito na-mention ko yung mga lipid-lowering drugs to prevent atherosclerosis and its complication. These are just pictures of the different types of insulin. Now, lastly, hypoglycemia. So, hyperinsulinism is one cause because of an insulinoma. That where there is yung, kasi insulinoma, there is a tumor, no? Meron kang excessive insulin production from an adenoma of the islets of Langerhans, wherein 10 to 15% are malignant. So, ang treatment, kasi nga nag-hypogly, you have to give more than 1,000 grams of glucose every 24 hours to prevent hypoglycemia. And bakit ba gusto mong ma-prevent ang hypoglycemia? Because when the blood glucose falls to about 50 to 70, ano ba sabi nating normal blood glucose? 80 to 90, di ba? Pag bumaba yan ng 50 to 70, sabi natin yung brain unang-unang naapektuhan. No? The CNS becomes excitable. You can have hallucinations, extreme nervousness, trembles all over, and breakout in a sweat. Okay? Now, if the blood glucose falls to 20 to 50 milligrams per 100 ml, you can have clonic seizures and loss of consciousness. And even lower than that, seizures cease and patient goes into coma. So what is the treatment? You can give immediate IV large quantities of glucose. You can also give glucagon or epinephrine. Alright, I think that's my last slide. Do you have any question? I'll stop sharing.